At the bottom of Yud Gimel Amid base, 13b. The Gemara had said that according to Rabbi Yehuda, this the wife, in case his wife dies and he needs a wife, the Kohen Gadol needs a wife, so we have a second wife set up for him. And the Gemara asked, well, it needs to be Beso, it needs to be his wife, so he has to have not only betrothed her and done Kiddushin, but he also has to do in the Suin, he also has to have married her, and so that he would have married her and done divorced both his new wife and his proper wife conditionally, and if his wife dies, then the second wife is not divorced. If his wife doesn't die, then the second wife is divorced. We went through yesterday how that conditional divorce is done. The Gemara also now is building up a question based on another halacha. The halacha is that in Onain, somebody who has an immediate relative that passed away is not allowed to do any service de avoda in the Beis Hamikdash. However, the Kohen Gadol, the Chachamim say, is allowed to. However, even though he's allowed to do the avoda, he's allowed to do the service, he's not allowed to eat any of the carbon. So he's allowed to do the avodah. He's not allowed to eat any of the carbon. That's the halacha. Yehuda says he can't do any of the avodah. He says Kollel, which we explained at the top of Yudalet Amud Aleph for the first lines, that he cannot do the entire day's work of the first day. The next night, meaning the evening after that, he's allowed to do avodah, and the reason for that is because that's not the orais anymore. The Torah prohibition of an onain is only on the first day, the day that the person's immediate relative dies. But that evening, it's not the oraisa, it's the rabbanan, it's a rabbinic prohibition of an extension of the concept of onain, and therefore that night he's allowed to do the avodah. The Gemara is about to ask, well, wait, if the whole reason he can't do the avodah is because maybe he's going to eat, well then, if he's not allowed to do the avodah because he may come to eat, well then, according to Rabbi Yehuda, if his wife dies on Yom Kippur, he cannot do the avodah at all, because maybe he's going to come to eat. The Gemara says, is it really true that Rabbi Yehuda is concerned that maybe he's going to come to eat and therefore he can't do the avodah, can't do the service because maybe he's going to eat some of it, and that's prohibited? We learned in our Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda, that we set up and arrange a second wife for the Kohen Gadol. Shema Tamas Ishtay. Perhaps his wife will die. Now, and if his wife dies, yet he's going to continue doing the service. And we see in our Mishnah, he's not concerned that maybe he's going to eat some of the korban. So Gemara says, how can you compare those two? Hasam kivin the Yom Kippurim in our Mishnah, since it's Yom Kippur, the kuli achli, nobody's eating. So we're not concerned that he's going to eat, because after all, on Yom Kippur, in any case, nobody's eating, so there's no concern that he's going to end up eating some of the carbon that he's working with, because nobody's eating. It's Yom Kippur. He knows you're not supposed to eat. He's not planning on eating. He knows it's a fasting, and so is everyone else fasting. He's not going to make a mistake. However, but in the regards of a regular carbon, on a regular day, where he happens to be the only one that's not going to be eating on account of that he's an onain, he has an immediate relative that passed away, so he may come to eat as well. And therefore, that's the reason that in our case, he's not concerned of aninus, of the Kohen Gadol eating some, and therefore it should be prohibited. And whereas in a regular case, he's concerned and says the Kohen Gadol should not do the avodah, even though he's allowed to. But since he's not allowed to eat, and he may end up doing the avodah and then therefore eating, so we're not going to let him eat. Now the Gemara challenges says in any case he's not an onain, because according to Rabbi Yehuda, we define that he's going to have given a get to his wife conditionally, that if she dies during the day, retroactively from before the day's beginning, she will have been divorced from him. Well then, his immediate relative did not die because she was retroactively divorced from him, and so he's not an one. And when it says in such a case as we define this get, Michaela le aninus, does this mourning period of for the death of immediate relative start? Migarsha, she's divorced. So where it says you're right, technically there's no aninus, but we have to work with emotions. So nihida aninus lechayla, it's chaylale. It's true that the aninus will not take effect on him because technically the divorce went into effect retroactively, and she's divorced. They're divorced. However, but will he not be upset on account of his wife passing? And yes, it's true that the divorce took effect and it's not his wife at that moment, but it was his wife. This was his wife for all the years, and hopefully he loved her, and it was special. And so the fact that his wife died is going to be, it's not, you're right, the technicality is not there, but the difficulty is there. And so therefore he's not basimcha, he's not in joy, he's not doing the work properly. And so that would apply to prohibit him from eating the kachim, and as if it's a immediate relative, because that is the halacha, that is who she technically, who she literally was, even though, if due to a technicality, she was divorced from him retroactively that morning. Okay, so the Mishnah on Yudalid Amud Aleph 14a, the Mishnah now begins with the order of the preparation that he would do. All 7 days of the preparation, which we said he has to separate, and we set up a deputy kohen, and Rabbi Yehuda says we also set up a second wife for him, which we said halachically he's not done, but we described how that would work if according to Rabbi Yehuda, if we would do it like Rabbi Yehuda. And then we say, okay, so what is the kohen gadol going to do these 7 days? Kol shivas hayamim, all 7 days, hu zerek es adam. Every single day, in the morning and in the evening, there's a korban, a communal ola that's brought as the steady korban every morning and every night. And that korban has to have the blood spritzed on the mizbeach. So every one of the 7 days, the kohen gadol is going to do that spritzing, because on the day of Yom Kippur, he does all of the avodah himself, the daily service as well as the Yom Kippur service. The kohen gadol does the entire thing from the beginning to end by himself, and so he has to get used to know exactly what to do. And so for 7 days, he's practicing to do every step, meaning he may not have a lot of practice with any one given step, because there are kahanim that are on duty every day that do it. So since he has to do it all himself for 7 days, he's practicing. First thing in the morning, he spritzes the blood onto the 2 corners of the mizbeach. We'll see soon about that. And he will burn up the incense, literally meaning he will smokify the incense, make it turn it into smoke to give the aroma. And he has to fix the candle, the menorah, to fix the wicks. And then he brings up onto the mizbeach, onto the altar, the head and the right hind leg of this animal that is brought up as the korban. However, all year round, he doesn't have to do this. Any part that he would like to do, he's allowed to do it. He doesn't have to, but he could choose anything he wants. He could choose any part he wants first, and he can choose any part of the offering that the kohanim eat as well. He can say, I'd like to have that piece today. Mantana. So now the Gemara is going to try and analyze whose opinion is our Mishnah in this order. So in the spritzing of the blood that he will do the service. We saw earlier the Mishnah had said that every one of the 7 days the red heifer water is spritzed on him. Now, the red heifer water, the mechatas of the paraduma, was actually very unique and very cryptic, and it would cause tuma to some people that came into contact with it, as we'll see in the Gemara now, who exactly. But some people that come into contact with it that were tahor, that were ritually pure, will become tameh just by coming into contact with it. And for people that are tameh, it will cause them to become tahor. It will make them pure. So Rabbi Akiva is going to tell us that, in his opinion, anybody that had the red heifer water spritzed on them becomes tameh. And since we spritz on him all 7 days to make sure that he gets a 3 and 7 to become tahor, so he's not going to be able to do any of the avodah the entire week until the end when he goes to the mikveh. And so he may watch someone to do it, but he himself can't do it because he's tameh. So therefore, our Mishnah, the look of Rabbi Akiva, must not be the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, the Rabbi Akiva, because it's a Rabbi Akiva, Amar Tahor, a pure person, meaning a person that is ritually pure, has no tumah on him. Shenafal alav hazah, that a spritz of the red heifer water fell on him. Metamase, it makes him tameh. Hey Chaved Avodah, so how could he do the service all 7 days? Yud Daled Amid Beis right after the Mishnah. Sorry, Yud Daled Amid Aleph right after the Mishnah. 14a right after the Mishnah. The Tanya we learn. The Hiza Hatar ala Tomei, and the Tahor person will spritz upon the Tomei. Now it already said that he's doing the helping the Tomei person. So why does it say, and he will spritz on the tummy? It should say, and he will spritz on him. So why does it say he will spritz on the tummy? To tell you that when he spritzes on the tummy, it makes him tahor. But when he spritzes on a non-tummy person, it actually has the opposite effect. It makes him tummy. Al hatamei tor. If he spritzes on the tummy, he's tor. But al hator, and if he's on the tahor person, tummy, it makes him tummy. So the red heifer water is going to the bechatas. You spritz it on a tummy person. That's his way, his ticket back in. That's his way of becoming tar. However, you spritz it on a tar person, it actually makes him tummy. Different Rabbi Kiva, that's Rabbi Kiva's opinion. The Chachamim disagree, and they say, no, that's not what it's talking about. That's only telling us a different halacha. That's something that's mekabel tuma. The red heifer water will count as a spritz on it. But if it does not, it will not count as a spritz. What does this mean? The halacha is the way this process is done, that they would have a hyssop, a azo, or leaves, branch, whatever it is, and they would dunk it into the mechatas, the red heifer water, and they would spritz it. Now, how much needs to be spritzed on it? Any amount, we'll see. How much needs to be in the bowl that he's taking from? And a minimum amount. He spritzes. Now, there's still some red heifer water, mechatas, on the branch. Can he now spritz again? So it depends. If it's remnants of a spritz that counts as a proper spritz, as a hazah, so then it's great. Then he can still use it because it's a valid spritz, and he can spritz on someone else as well. However, if he dunked it and then spritzed on an animal is not susceptible to tumas mace, to tuma from a deceased person, and it's a live animal, and so when he spritzed on it, it didn't count as a halachic spritz. In fact, it was just sprinkling on water on an animal, which means that you just use this water for non-halachic purposes, turning this water invalid, because you're not allowed to use the mechatas. You're not allowed to use it for anything. You're not allowed to be nana from it. You're not allowed to be mishtamish from it, to use it, to utilize it. And so when this person spritzed on an animal, what remains on the hyssop, on this azov, actually becomes invalidated as it was used. It was utilized for non mechatas usage, and invalidates it. And that's what this is saying, that if he spritzed on the tummy If he spritzed on someone who's susceptible to Tumah, so then it counts as a spritz, and then what remains on the Azov is still valid, and you can spritz again with it or on someone else. Not so if you spritz on an animal. The Tanan, as we learned. He intended to spritz an animal, which is useless and would have wasted it. But in the end, he actually spritzed on a human. If there's anything left on the Azov, Yeshana, then he can spritz again a second time with that, and that would count because the first one was a valid spritz because he spritzed on a human. However, even if he intended to spritz on a human, however, but he ended up spritzing on an animal, and for sure if he intended to spritz on the animal. But if he spritzed on an animal, even though his intent was for a human, now that's a waste because he's used the red heifer water, the mechatas, for something else. If there's anything left on the Azov, anything left on the hyssop, lo yeshane, he cannot reuse it. And that's what it means. That's the way the Chachamim explain this verse. Why does it say again an unnecessary time that he will spritz upon the tameh? To tell you that the person has to be susceptible to tumah. But if you spritz on an animal that's not susceptible to tumah, it doesn't count as hazah, it doesn't count as a spritz, and invalidates the water that's left on the Azov. My time in the Rabbi Akiva. Now, what's the reasoning of Rabbi Akiva? So the Gemara says, because as we explained, the Torah should have said, but since we're already discussing the tameh person, the Torah could just have said, and he will spritz upon him. Why did it say on the tameh? My al hatame, shma mina al hatame tahor. That to tell you that if he spritzes on a tameh person, then he becomes tahor, then he becomes ritually pure. Val tahor. But if he spritzes on a tahor person, now tameh, now he's going to become tameh, and so it has the opposite effect on someone who starts off tahor. And as we explained, the Rabbanan disagree. They say no. This extra word al hatame is to tell you that it has to be something that's susceptible to tumah, and if the person is not susceptible to tumah, the animal is not susceptible to tumah, then indeed the spritzing on him will invalidate the rest of the water that's on this Azov because it has been misused and is not pure red heifer water anymore. The Gemara says, wait, the Chachamim say to Rabbi Akiva, it's a kal v'chomer. It doesn't make sense logically. If you spritz on someone who's already come into contact with the dead, he's tameh. That's his key. That purifies him. Someone who is not tameh at all, someone alatar, someone who is tar from the beginning, like al-shakain, wouldn't you say for sure that makes him tar, or at least leaves him as is? It doesn't do anything negative to him. If it makes a tameh person in the most severe tameh, he came into contact with the dead. This is what his key. This is what tarizes him, right? This is what makes him tar. How can it be that it'll make somebody else tameh? Rabbi Kiva says you're right, but Hainu the Kama Shlomo, and this is what Shlomo said that he set out to investigate and to seek wisdom. Amarti echkama, I said I will become wise. But indeed, it is still very far from me because this contradiction in the mechatas, in the red heifer water, where it makes a tar person tameh, even though it makes a tameh person tar, that is too contradictory and doesn't make sense logically. And the Rabbanan say you're right. There is a paradox in there, but this paradox is for something else. This is to tell you a different halacha, that the mazeh, the one who spritzes the red heifer water, so he's actually coming into contact with it. He's dipping in, he's holding the vessel, and he's dipping in the hyssop, the azov, and with it he's spritzing on him, and nothing happens to him. So he, because it says he's a hat tahor, the tar person will spritz, meaning he remains tahor. Ula mazin, olav, and the people that it's spritzed upon, they are tahor. However, the negea behen tamei, but whoever touches it becomes tamei, as the Torah says in the pasuk. The Torah says like this: it'll be an everlasting statute for you. And literally, we would say, and the spritzer of the spritzing water, of the removing water, he needs to wash his clothing. And the one who touches it, yitma, he will become tamei ad ha'arav, until that evening. So what's clear in the pasuk is that one who touches it becomes tamei till that evening. What's unclear is the line before that. The one who spritzes the red heifer water, the sprinkling water, must wash his clothing. His clothing have to go to the mikveh. Does that mean he becomes tamei? What does that mean? But so the first opinion over here says, no, the spritzer, the one who spritzes, and the one who gets spritzed upon, they are tahor. But the one who touches the water, he becomes tamei. And that's the paradox of the mechatas, of the paradum, of the red heifer water. So now the Gemara challenges, umaze tahor? You tell me the one who spritzes remains tahor? It says in the middle of that verse, before it says the one who touches becomes tamei till the evening, it says the one who spritzes has to wash his clothing, meaning his clothing have to go to the mikveh. The Gemara says, you're right. The Chachamim do not interpret that to mean the one who spritzes, but rather the one who touches, as the next line says, that the one who touches becomes tamei, and his clothing also becomes tamei. Umaze negea. Maze over here, my maze negea means the one who's touching. And when it says that can't be vaksiv maze, vaksiv negea, but it says in two separate lines. The one who spritzes, the one who touches. So Chachamim say, we'll explain that just tells you how much. Now, if it says the one who spritzes has to wash his clothes, and the negea, the one who touches, does not have to wash his clothes. Elamai maze noise. So you're right. The one who spritzes is not needed here. And what we're talking about is the one who touches, and the one who touches himself becomes tamei. The one who carries it is what we're talking about by maze. Maze means the one who carries the red heifer water, and for him, he has to send his clothing to the mikveh. Now, so we have like this: the one who dips the hyssop in and spritzes, tahor. The one who has the sprinkling on him, tahor. The one who touches, he becomes tamei to that evening. The one who carries it, his clothing have to go to the mikveh. So v'nichtav rachmana noiseh. So if that's the case, why don't we just say that? Why did the pasuk say, and the one who carries it, his clothing have to go to the mikveh? He has to wash his clothing. My time eksiv maze. Why does it say the one who spritzes? This is to tell us that you require that the one who carries it, in order for him to become tamei, the minimum amount he's carrying is the minimum amount that he had for the sprinkling. The Gemara says that's great if you hold that there is a minimum amount of sprinkling. But if you hold there's no minimum amount of sprinkling, what does it mean that it means that the one carrying it is tamei? And why did the Torah refer to him as the one who spritzes, to tell you that he carried the amount needed to spritz? Well, there is no amount needed to spritz according to that opinion. So Gemara says that would be great according to the opinion that says that you actually need a minimum amount when you spritz, like this machlokas and Gemara in Zvachim. However, according to the opinion, but according to the opinion that spritzing does not require a minimum amount, what are you going to say? Gemara says, even according to the opinion that spritzing does not require a minimum amount, hani mili agava de gava. That means what gets on the person, any amount is going to be okay. That's what that opinion says. You don't have to have spritzed, a minimum amount onto him. Any droplet that gets on him, that's enough to make him tahor. Aval b'mana tzricha shir, but you need within the vessel, that you need a minimum amount, and that amount is going to be what the person who carries is going to be the minimum amount in order for him to be tamei for his clothing be tamei for carrying. Okay. So we now have a machlokas between Rabbi Akiva and the Chachamim. What's clear is that by the main nida, by the chatas, by the spritzing red heifer water, there is a contradiction. There is a paradox. According to Rabbi Akiva, the paradox is you spritz on a tamei person, he becomes tahor. You spritz on a tahor person, he becomes tamei. The Chachamim say no. The person who gets spritzed upon always is tahor. The spritzer always tahor. The one who touches the red heifer water becomes tamei. Now, even though that when you spritz on someone, he's essentially touching it, no, that's not a problem. You touch the mechatas, the red heifer water, tamei. The middle line of maze, of the spritzing, which would indicate like the idea that the spritzer himself becomes tamei, to that the Chachamim say no, the spritzer does not become tamei. Rather, it's the one who carries it, his clothing becomes tamei. How much does he have to carry? That's what the mazi is. He has to carry the minimum amount that's needed for spritzing. The Tanan. And what is that shear? As we learned, how much needs to be in the vessel in order for it to be counted as there's enough to spritz? Today, Sheyitbal, and now we go to Yudalit Amid Base at 14b. There's enough that he'd be able to stick in the tips of the azov of the hyssop and be able to spritz with that. That's the amount needed. You have to be able to dip. One second. So getting back to our Mishnah, the conclusion over here is that in our Mishnah, where it says in the Mishnah that he would do the avodah all 7 days, cannot be the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Akiva says whoever gets spritzed upon is tamei. And so this person is going to be tamei either way. Either he was already tamei because he came into contact with the dead, so you need to go through the 3 and 7 process until he goes to mikvah on the day before Yom Kippur in preparation of Yom Kippur. Or if he started off at that he was not tamei, well, he just became tamei on account of the red heifer water spritzed on him. So it can't be, our Mishnah cannot be the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, who says that once you have the red heifer spritz on him, it becomes tamei. Abaya Amar, to which Abaya says in the first line of 14b, Adalan Amid Base, Afilu Tema Rabbi Akiva. We can even explain our Mishnah according to Rabbi Akiva. What's the case? What are you concerned about? That when you spritz the red heifer water on him, he becomes tamei, and then he cannot do the avodah, he cannot do the service. Who tells you that you do it, spritz the red heifer water on him first thing in the morning? Right? That doesn't have to be at all. He's going to wake up in the morning, the Kohen Gadol, and he's going to do the avodah in the morning, as our Mishnah says. And in the afternoon, he's going to do the avodah, as our Mishnah says. He's completed doing the service for the day. Then we're going to spritz the red heifer water on him, and he'll go to the mikvah, and he'll be tahor by that evening. So who tells you that it's going to be done in the morning, and then he's going to be tamei until he goes to the mikvah that evening? The Aved Aveda Kuli Yoma. Rabbi Akiva is going to say that he does the service the entire day. Ulapania. And right before the sun sets, Madu Olav, that's when they spritz on him, V'tavel, and he goes to mikvah, Herav Shemesh, and then he will have the sun set on him, and he becomes tahor once again. Umakter esakteres ameitav asaniras. He also will also have to. He spritzes the blood of the tamid on the mizbeach. Then he goes and he burns the incense on the ketores, on the mizbeach, the golden mizbeach in the Beis Hamikdash proper, in the that's between the table and the menorah, the shulchan and the menorah. And then he fixes the menorah wicks in preparation of that night's lighting. Now, by the statement of the Mishnah, we would assume that the Mishnah means to say this order: he does the tamid, burns up the incense, he's maktir ketores, and he meitiv aneros, he fixes the menorah. However, we have mishnayos that seem to contradict this, because the mishnayos in Talmud, which discuss the daily karbanos and the daily service. So there it says, one Mishnah says, it says how they would divvy out the avodah, they would give out the jobs with a girl, with a lottery, and exactly how they would do it. And one Mishnah says, the first Mishnah says, we'll see in the Gemara, right? The Gemara goes through the three Mishnayos. The order is different over here because it puts in the menorah before the Ketores. So Alma Ketores Bereisha. So now our Mishnah, it seems to say that the Ketores is first. V'hadar Neiros, and then the candles. However, for a minute we have a contradiction to that, because the list of Mishnayos and Talmud, so the first Mishnah, it says, Misha Zocha B'dishon Mizbeach HaPanimi, who is the one the one who merited the lottery to do the Dishon Mizbeach HaPanimi, the clearing off of the ash from the inner Mizbeach, and it goes in and it tells us how he would do it. And then it says, which is the Ketores. And then it says, Mi Shazacha B'menorah. Then it says, the next Mishnah, who merited to fix the menorah in preparation for the evening. And then the third Mishnah says, who merited the lottery, Misha Zacha B'Ketoros, to actually do the Ketoros. And then he would do it. And it goes through the process of how he do that. So the first Mishnah says the cleaning of the Mizbeach in preparation of the Ketoros, then the preparing the menorah, and only then the Ketoros. So the preparing of the menorah was prior to burning up the Ketoros, the incense. And in our Mishnah, the burning of the incense, the doing the Ketoros proper is before the candles, the clearing the candle, the fixing of the candles. What's going on? Amar Rav Huna. So Rav Huna is going to say there are two opinions of what the order was. And the Mishnah over there at first, and then the Gemara is saying, no, our Mishnah is the opinion of Rabbi Shimon Ish HaMitzvah. Man Tana Talmud, whose opinion is it over there? Rabbi Shimon Ish HaMitzvah. It's the opinion of Rabbi Shimon HaMitzvah. So the Gemara says, can't be. But we learned over there that Rabbi Shimon Ish HaMitzvah disagrees with that Mishnah. The Tanan, we learned. Now, in the elaboration of how the spritzing of the blood from the daily Talmud was done, so there's a concept called shtayim shein harba, 2 spritzes which equal to 4. How does 2 equal to 4? Meaning you want the blood of the Talmud on all 4 sides of the Mizbeach. So in order to get that done, they would do a single spritz on the northeastern corner of the Mizbeach, and then walk around to the southwestern corner and spritz there. And when you spritz on the corner, the blood splits onto the 2 sides. And so the northern side has some spritz from the spritz of the northeastern corner, and the east side has a spritz on it because of the northeastern corner spritz. And then when he goes around, he would do the same on the other side, and the 2 sides would get. So that's the shtayim, 2 spritzes, shein arba, that get onto the 4 sides of the Mizbeach. However, Rabbi Shimon Ish HaMitzvah says that's good for the northeastern side, but for the southwestern side, he would actually spritz on the west first, and then the south side in individual spritz. So he would do one that equals to 2 on the northeastern corner, and then on the southwestern side, he would actually do 2 separate spritzes on each side. So we see either way, the point is that we see Rav Shimon Ish HaMitzvah disagrees with that Mishnah, so you can't be the Mishnah there because he is an outlier opinion against the Mishnah, right? He's the dissenting opinion against the Mishnah, so he can't be the opinion of the Mishnah itself. So how can you tell me that the Mishnah in Talmud is the opinion of Rav Shimon Ish HaMitzvah? Well, he is the dissenting opinion in the next case. The Tanam we learned, first he would come to the northeastern side of the Mizbeach. The shechting of the Talmud would happen on the northern side of the Mizbeach, which was the on the platform of the Shechita platform, which was to the north, directly north of the Mizbeach. So he would come up the Mizbeach to the eastern side, heading south from the shechting area to the Mizbeach, encounter the northeastern corner of the Mizbeach, spritz over there, and then he would turn to the right because everything in the Mizbeach in Beis Hamikdash was by turning to the right. So he would turn to the right and start counterclockwise around the Mizbeach to the southwestern corner, having passed the northwestern corner down to the southwestern corner. So then he's going to spritz a northeastern spritz. Ma'arav is the Raimis. Then he goes to the southwestern side. And he does one spritz that will go send it on both the southwestern and the western sides. But Tani Allah, and on that we learn Rabbi Shimon Mishane. He actually changes the order in Talmud. Mizrachet Safainis, Noisa Mizrachet Safainis. By the northeastern corner, he actually does one spritz that goes both on the north and the eastern sides. However, Marav is the Raimis, but on the southwestern corner, Noisa Ma'arava, he first puts it on the west side. And then he puts another one on the south side. So he splits that up. In any case, what's relevant to us is not really that machlekas of why or how he spritz 2 that equals 4 or 3 that equals 4. But the point is that we have the Stam Mishnah, the statement of the Mishnah, and Rav Shimon HaMitzvah dissenting from the statement of the Mishnah. So how can you tell me that statement of the Mishnah is the opinion of Rav Shimon ben Ish HaMitzvah when he's the one disagreeing? Elam Rav Yechonah, therefore Rav Yechonah says we have to say the other way around, that the Mishnah in Talmud is the Chachamim, and our Mishnah is the opinion of Rav Shimon HaMitzvah. Mantana say the Yoma, who's the Tana that teaches the order of the Mishnayos in Yoma? That's Rabbi Shimon HaMitzvah. That's Rabbi Shimon. Rami say the Yoma, say the Yoma. But however, we have a contradiction within our Mishnayos itself. So you tell us, okay, no contradiction from the Mishnah there to the Mishnah here. The order of the Mishnayos over there tell us that first the Kohen would burn up the incense, the Ketores, and only thereafter would he fix the menorah. And over here, it's the reverse. He says first that he fixes the menorah wicks, and then he does the Ketores. That's fine. That makes sense because we're going to say our Mishnah is the Rabbi Shimon HaMitzvah. However, we're going to have a problem within our Mishnayos itself because here we have the order first the Ketores and then fixing the menorah. But later we're going to have a different order. The Tanan we learned, Hapayas Hashem. We'll see later that the way they would give out the jobs, or who would do which avodah, who would get to merit the various opportunities, they would do lotteries. Now, the second lotteries, and they would do several lotteries for different groups of avodah. The second one, they would do a lottery for all of these particular responsibilities. Mishechet, a lottery who gets the shecht. Mizorik, who gets the spritz. Mi medashim mizbeach hapanimi, who gets to remove the ash from the inner mizbeach. That's where the ketores is going to go. Mi medashin as a menorah, who gets to fix the menorah, to fix the wicks and take out the ash from last night. Mi malei varm lekevish, who's going to take the parts up on the ramp up to the mizbeach. In other words, the burning up. Now the pious hashlishi, the third lottery, that's where they would give out the job, the responsibility of the ketores. But for that, because everybody wanted the opportunity to do the ketores, the incense, so they would announce anybody that's never done the ketores before is allowed to come to this lottery. Chadashim la ketores, those that are new to ketores that have never done it before, bo'u v'hafisu, come and join the lottery. And we'll see later how that lottery was done with fingers and counting, etc. But the point is that we see first the fixing of the menorah, and then the burning of the ketores, which is exactly like the Mishnayos in Talmud, and not like our Mishnah, which says the ketores and then the fixing of the menorah. Abaya. So Abaya says, well, actually, it was split up into two. The seven candles that were on the menorah, it was 6 arms and the center, right? So you had 7 7 candelabra, 7 candles. The 2 of them were the 2 and the 7 was split, and the ketores was done in between. So if you have the ketores before, that's and the Ketores after, it's not really a contradiction because it's talking about two separate things. Kan batavas shtei neiros, kan batavas chamesh neiros. Well, there was a distinction between the two neiros and the two candles and the five other candles. That the five were done. Then he would do the incense, and then he would do the final two. First, he would do five candles, and then the incense, and that's what it says in the later Mishnayos that in the first lot, in the second lottery, they would give out the job of fixing the menorah, and in the third lottery, they would give out the job of the Ketores itself. And like our Mishnah says, they would do the Ketores and then fix the candles. It's talking about the last two, the final two candles. Now, the Lememra, the Ketores mafsiklu. So what you're saying, according to Abaye, is that it's true. There were 7 candles and there was split 5 and 2, and something was done in between. And you're telling me that what was done in between was the incense, the Ketores. Well, actually, Abaye, when he repeated the order, the teaching of the order, Abaye Mesader Ma'arach Meshmed Gemara, he explained the order in the name of the halacha that was taught in the academy. And over there he says they would fix the 5 candles, then they would spritz the blood from the tamid, from the daily offering, and then they would do the next 2 candles. So he did also split it, but he split it with something else. What was done in between was the spritzing of the blood, not the incense. And when it says, yeah, you're right. That was the opinion of Abba Shaul. That Abba Shaul also says the split, but what he inserts in the break between the 5 candles that were done, and then the next 2 candles, the last 2 candles that were fixed, there he puts in the spritzing of the blood. However, according to the Rabbanan, it was the incense that was done in between. The time we learned he should not complete the fixing of the candles. The Yitavas Haneros, he should not make good the candles, is literally what it means. And then do the incense. Rather, he has to do the incense in the middle. He should first burn up the incense, meaning do the Ketores, and only thereafter complete the fixing of the menorah, the last 2. However, Abba Shaul disagrees with that. Abba Shaul, no, you complete the fixing of the menorah, and only thereafter do you burn up the incense, the makte Ketores. So how do you split the 5 and 2 according to Abba Shaul? So you're gonna have to do the spritzing of the blood in between. Now, what my time with Abba Shaul? What's the basis of Abba Shaul that he says that you cannot complete, that you have to complete fixing the menorah prior to the Ketores? The Sefer, it says, every morning he will bring the incense when he makes good the candles. And then it says after, and the word yaktirena, he will smokify it, he'll burn it up, says afterwards. And so the idea, according to Abba Shaul, is you have to do the 5 candles, split between the 5 and the 2, and he will do the spritzing of the blood in between, complete the menorah, and then burn up the incense. And the Chachamim, tomorrow we'll see the Chachamim's opinion, and the basis for that, they say no, that you have to do the Ketores in the midst of the fixing of the 7 candles. Yeshikach.